Interviewed a lot of people running for governor or mayor in southern areas, and we often talk about black voters, but I want to talk about white voters for a minute. The Republican Party has been really enacting hell on Georgia for a very long time, but it's blood red, controlled by a state legislature. Now, there have been some really amazing people who have run for governor of Georgia. Of course, we know Stacey Abrams, and she went all through rural Georgia and talked to folks. But white voters, not all, but in the majority, they will not support a Democratic candidate, even if you talk the kitchen table issues. So, why do you think so many white Georgians are voting against their own interests time and time again?
Clay, I think that we need to look at what happened in the state in 20 and what's happened with Senator Warnock. We've had voters who have voted across racial lines, across party lines. We have a lot of independent voters in the state. So if you look at 2020, we were able to send Biden, Warnock, and Ossoff to DC. We've elected Warnock at least two or three times since then with all of the elections that he's had related to the special election process, in his case being a senator. So it's possible in this state. I think right now people are looking at the issues. They are concerned about what this means to our bottom line economically. How are we being hit in this state? 600,000 jobs right here in Georgia directly impacted by the ports of Savannah and Brunswick. That's hitting people's bottom line. I went to the grocery store the other day. I paid almost $9, probably a little more, for a large box of cereal. I mean, that's crossing lines. So what I would say is that we've seen African American candidates get supported by swing voters in this state, and those are people who sometimes vote for the Republican side. They sometimes vote for the Democrat side. It's possible, and I think we'll see that again in 26.
Mayor, if I could just push back for a minute, I guess because I'm on these airwaves, I don't feel like people are looking at the issues. If folks were looking at the issues, then the guy who was selling a watch for $100,000 in 2024 wouldn't have won. I mean, Kamala Harris talked about the issues incessantly. Democrats talk about the issues, yet and fair enough, Senator Warnock won and John Ossoff is up, but nonetheless, for the most part, Democrats will clean the economy up. They'll fix things, and they won't get reelected. So at this point, I'm struggling. I feel like this has to go beyond kitchen table. People are voting against their own kitchen table. I think this hate messaging is really what's resonating. It's a remix version of the welfare queen, the Willie Horton ad. I've been in the barbershop hearing people who look like us saying, oh, I don't like Trump, but he's right on that trans shit. I don't feel like people are voting their kitchen table. They're voting on these culture wars. How do you combat that?
Well, Clay, I mean, you watch politics a lot, so you know it's more to it than talking about the issues. You've got to take it directly to people. So when I went into the barber shop where my kids get their hair cut, my husband goes into this barber shop. When he comes home and says that, 12 out of the 18 black men in the shop were talking about Trump, I knew that we had a messaging, not just a messaging issue, but we weren't talking directly to people. And I think that's the thing that we've got to think about. Candidates matter, messaging matters, but you've also got to have people on the ground. You've got to have people going in the barbershop, knocking on doors, calling people on the telephone, hitting them on social media. We have to cover it all. Some people are still getting their messaging on television. Other people don't even have cable boxes in their home. So we have to hit it all, but also execute the mechanics of a campaign in a flawless way. And if, the autopsy is being done on the last election, and that we'll continue to see more on that. But at the end of the day, I think what we can all agree on is that Donald Trump was able to take it directly to his base in a way that on the Democrat side, we didn't do it effectively.
Who is the Democratic base?
The Democratic base, that's a great question. It depends on where you are, but if you're in Georgia, it's a cross section of people, primarily African American voters make up the base in Georgia, but of course it's a cross section of people that extends beyond racial and gender lines. And of course I'm focused on Georgia. But again, we have a lot of independent slash swing voters in this state. It's not going to be enough for any candidate just to rely on one set of people in the state. So if I only talk to African Americans or if I only talked about issues related to Black women, I would lose. That's why I'm focused on issues that matter to all of us. We all want the same things. We want safe neighborhoods. We want well-paying jobs. We want to be able to afford groceries. We want access to quality health care. We want great schools in our neighborhoods. That transcends politics.
There have been a lot of great people who have run for governor of Georgia. Georgia hasn't had a Democratic governor, I think, since 2003. That's when the last Democratic governor left. But a lot of great folks have run. I thought Stacey Abrams ran an incredible campaign. She crisscrossed. She was in rural areas. She was everywhere. She did it twice. What would you do different than what other folks did before you, even before Stacey Abrams, to try and become governor of Georgia? How would your strategy and your plan, Keisha Lance Bottoms campaign, be different?
Every race is a different race. So with each election cycle, you're looking at a new set of voters in the state. As I mentioned, a lot of people moved to this state during and post-pandemic. So even from our last election cycle, the voting rolls have changed. They're ever changing. You're looking at who these voters are, where they are, and again, you're taking it directly to them. Focusing on Atlanta alone won't cut it. Focusing on Metro Atlanta alone, what won't cut it. I've got to hit every single corner of this state, go directly into communities and talk to people about what matters to them most. The issues and challenges in Monroe, Georgia may be very different than the issues and challenges in Savannah, Georgia. But you're absolutely right. You've got to look at previous elections, what went right. You learn, you pick up those lessons, you replicate them. What went wrong, you analyze where the failures were, and then you adjust accordingly.
Is there a mistake that you saw in previous campaigns, not naming anybody that you feel like you would do different?
I think the biggest thing again is taking it directly to people. If I'm standing in my neighborhood barbershop and I hear Black men saying their vote doesn't matter, then I know that we're not doing something right.
But Stacey Abrams did that. She spoke directly to people. She spoke directly to black men, and she still lost. I mean, I've seen these Democratic candidates knocking on doors, banging on doors, and speaking directly to the people, and they're still losing.
Well, Clay, what I would say to you, we've had elections in Georgia, I think, since 1791, I believe. And with the exception of two of those elections, they've all been white men. I've never heard anyone say, oh, a white man lost. We shouldn't try it again. He didn't get it
Right,
right.
right. I
Don't try it
understand.
again. So, just because it hadn't worked out doesn't mean it can't work out. So
Right.
if it means that we've got to be more effective in our messaging, that's what we have to do. If it means that we need more people on the ground, that's what we have to do. If it means we
Okay.
need to be on Black radio more often, that's what we have
Okay.
to do. We will adjust accordingly.
You worked in the Biden Harris administration. There's all these people hawking books saying that Biden was falling apart and cognitive decline. And did you see anything that you thought was peculiar when you were in the Biden Harris administration from President Joe Biden?
I did not. I left in end of March of 23. That was not my experience at all with President Biden. And I saw him probably at least 2 to 3 times a week. That wasn't my experience. I do have a book coming out sometime next year, but I will talk about my time in the White House, but certainly that was not my experience with the president.